few people have played a more important part in the politics and policy of our times than our guest, former Massachusetts Governor and Utah Senator, Mitt Romney. Good to see you, Senator.
Thanks, John. Good to see you.
It's been a few years.
Yeah.
We're taping this interview hours after you joined other key figures at a commemoration of the 2006 Massachusetts healthcare reform law, known to all as Romney Care. When you look back over 20 years of Romney Care, what are you most proud of and what's your biggest disappointment?
No disappointments come to mind, to tell you the truth. It's not perfect. It took a lot of work to get it implemented, but what I'm proud of is that we have, 97, 98% of people in Massachusetts that have health insurance, and that has time after time meant that people who might not otherwise have been able to get health care treatment have had care and in many cases lives saved. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone into a Stop and Shop or a Star Market, which I've done, and had someone come up and say, thanks for putting in place a health insurance plan. I was able to get treatment. I might not have made it without it. And I mean, one of the members of my cabinet had that experience. She had brain cancer. She said, when we left the administration, I didn't have a job. I got on the connector or the equivalent at that time and got health insurance and was treated. I mean, that's what I'm proud of.
What about healthcare costs? They seem impossible to contain. Why is that?
Well, I have hope on healthcare cost with regards to AI. Everybody, when they talk about AI, artificial intelligence, they think about the downsides, but they also say, but in healthcare, there's some upsides. I think that's true. I think we're going to have some dramatic improvement in the quality of care and perhaps even in the cost of care. But part of our problem in healthcare is that there's really not an incentive for people to shop around and to find lower cost for quality care, nor is there an incentive for insurance companies to keep you healthy, because you don't own the policy. As an individual, your company is providing your health care. For most Americans, it's the company they work for that provides health care. If you change jobs, you change policies, the insurance company doesn't have an incentive to invest in you and keep you healthy. Those are things I think would make a difference.
What did you make of the changes Republicans in Washington have made to healthcare subsidies and policies? Some estimates say they're going to throw 200,000 low-income Massachusetts residents off of mass health in the coming years. That's almost apocalyptic.
Yeah, I don't think the right way to find cost reduction in healthcare is to take people off healthcare rolls and take away their health insurance. I think one of the lessons of the Massachusetts reform was, if people don't have insurance and they get deathly ill, they go to the ER and they will be treated. And guess what? We're all paying for that. The hospitals and providers have to pass that cost on to others, and that raises the cost to everybody. So we're paying for it. So there's a better way of dealing with healthcare costs than taking people out of the rolls. That's a mistake. Finding new incentives for providing lower cost care, managing our prescription drugs better than we do, but also having individuals own their own insurance. That'll make a difference as well.
Time for reform of the reform, is that what you're saying?
Basically, look for reforms, look for adjustments in policy, as opposed to just looking for taking people off of healthcare rolls, because it will not, in the long run, save money. People who get sick will be treated. That costs money.
When you signed Romney Care into law, you were on the verge of running for president in 2008, and you said, quote, "I have no way of telling if it's going to be a help or a hindrance down the road," end quote. Well, what did it turn out to be?
Yeah, I don't worry too much about the political impact, because the impact it had on lives, of course, has been extraordinarily positive. But I did think there was a good line at the signing ceremony today, the 20th anniversary of that, and then Deval Patrick said, all the work it took to implement this, instead of being called Romney Care, it should have been called Deval Patrick Care. And I thought, well, yeah, that would have been a good idea. That would have helped me politically.
Yeah, right.
I gave a big thumbs up, and the crowd all laughed. But I'm proud. It was the enormous achievement of my team. I was happy to be part of that, and I wouldn't change a thing.
And we're taping this interview on the day of your appearance at that commemoration, but you're speaking tonight at a Kennedy School event entitled America at 250 and Beyond, Democracy and Governance in America, a pretty big subject. You've, over the years, issued some pretty prescient warnings to your party about its direction and to the country. What's your message today about the future of both the GOP and America?
Well, it's hard for me to imagine what's going to happen to the GOP down the road. I think the current course would say that J.D. Vance will be the Republican nominee in 2028. I can't tell you whether he's going to win or lose, but that means a continuation of, if you will, the MAGA movement within the Republican Party. But, you know, that could be entirely changed by virtue of events outside of anyone's prognostication at this stage. The country will do well. I like what Winston Churchill said. He said, you could trust the American people to get things right after they've exhausted all the alternatives. And we're going through some alternatives that don't make a lot of sense right now, in my opinion. And there are some threats to liberal democracy in America that we haven't faced before. The amount of money by these super billionaires that are putting into campaigns, that's pretty dramatic in terms of a difference. The ceding of power from Congress to the White House, that's a big change as well. The advent of AI coming on the scene, what will impact that have on politics? Will advertising still be of the same nature we've seen in the past in political campaigns? Will there be deep fakes? What influence will they? So there are all these things. I have a long list of things that are challenging liberal democracy. Will we be able to sort through them? I believe we will, but we're not going in the right direction at this stage to do so, and I think our democracy has some work ahead of it.
How so? You say we're not going in the right direction. What do you mean more specifically?
Well, I mean, I think it's a mistake for people to be able to contribute tens of millions of dollars to a particular campaign, all right, or hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, what happens if Elon Musk says, I want to get so-and-so elected, and I'll put $1 billion in their campaign?
Isn't that what happened?
Yes, I mean, that's something we haven't quite faced before. We eliminated the 60-vote rule to confirm judges. All right, what that means is that judges no longer have to receive bipartisan support. So you have judges they say, oh, that's an Obama judge or that's a Trump judge. We didn't used to say that, but we've adjusted how we confirm judges. So that's made, if you will, the third branch, the judicial branch, become more political. That's a mistake. Congress doesn't play the kind of role it used to have. It used to be the Republican Party stood up to the president. The Republican senators stood up to Richard Nixon and told him he had to get out or they were going to be inclined to impeachment. Republicans now salute and do what the president tells. And by the way, Democrats did the same thing under Joe Biden.
When I talk to current members of Congress or senators, no names, but they all say, well, I know many of my Republican colleagues who voice the same kind of doubts you're expressing, but they won't say it publicly. Has that been your experience as well?
Yeah, I think you capture that pretty well. People have their misgivings, but one of the things I learned in going to Washington was that the people who were there overwhelmingly want to stay there, and that's their highest priority. Not everybody, but a large number of people who are there, Congress people, senators, and look, it's the best job they're ever going to have, and they want to hang on to it, and they don't want to lose an election. That's terribly embarrassing. They're going to go back home and do what? Sell real estate, which is a number of us end up doing. And so, no, they want to stay there, and that means they have to do what one senator said to me. He said, Mitt, sometimes you have to rise above principle and support the party.
Come on, you really?
Yeah, yes, really. You have to rise above principle. And it's kind of a joke in Washington. People say that now and then. But to hang on to your job, make sure you don't do something that's going to cost you your job. And that's, I mean, I would love for there to be term limits. There will not be term limits for congressmen and senators because they had to vote for them, but they don't want to do that.
You think that's necessary?
Oh, I think it would be wonderful. I don't think it'll ever happen. But I mean, I think the answer for our country, anytime we've been in real trouble in the past, is an extraordinary president who stands up and unites the country. And I mean, following a civil war, Lincoln got up in his second inaugural address and said, with malice toward none and charity for all. That was the attitude he brought to a nation divided. Great leaders, every now and then they come along. I happen to think Ronald Reagan was in that category. He brought the country together. FDR, John Kennedy. They're people who've played an outsized role in guiding America, and I think that's what we need again.
Final question from me. You made your qualms known about this current president, going back to before his first term. You paid a price for that, personal and professional. Do you feel vindicated? Was it worth it?
Oh, I've done exactly what I've seen my dad do in a prior circumstance, which is do what you believe and let the consequence follow. I don't look back. I don't think, oh, I wish I would have done. I said exactly what I believed, and I stand by that. People will measure whether I was wrong or right, but who cares? Look, you try and do what you think is right for the country and for yourself and for your family. You know, I don't need to have people's approval, and people know where I stand, and you know, I sleep at night. I'm not indicted by my conscience, and that's what really counts.
And you'll be continuing to speak out?
I speak out in the ways I think are most effective to let people know exactly what I believe.
Yeah. Look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thanks, John. All the best. Okay, take care.
And thank you for joining us. Now back to my colleagues for more WBZ News.